The creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon, I personally don't think he gets enough videos get put on him. So today, I'm going to be telling you guys the story from start to finish of Scott Cawthon. Scott Cawthon was born 1970 on June 4th in Texas. From a young age, Scott Cawthon loved animations and video games. This led him to getting his own animation degree within college. He started to make his own video games, the first one being RPG Max. Not many people know this, but Scott Cawthon is actually a devout Christian. This led him to joining a Christian group that makes animations, video games, books, etc. These shows and animations and video games were made to help people learn about their faith. After some time passed, he moved on to making his own video games. The most popular one before FNAF is known as Chipper and Sons Lumber & Co. These games actually completely flopped, which was incredibly bad for Scott Cawthon considering he had a family, 2 sons, and a wife to support within these games. So once the game flopped, it completely demotivated him. Once Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. released, a lot of hate comments were saying that it was so bad that it's, you could basically call it a horror game. He was actually working at a Dollar General, so you could imagine the money there wouldn't be the best, and these games would probably help him with his income. After this, he decided to make a smaller game and quit making his bigger styled games. This led him to making Five Nights at Freddy's 1. While developing the games, his own mother said that he should get rid of the newspaper clips, which kind of gave us the most lore within this first game before all the other ones. So if he actually did listen to her, we basically would have no lore and this game would have probably flopped. This game was a massive hit. This is due to the fact a popular YouTuber known as Markiplier played it, and compared with his, silly, funny humour, compared with this game, it completely went famous and is one of his most popular videos, actually. This led to other people wanting to play it, and just the widespread of FNAF 1. After the amazing success of FNAF 1, he obviously decided to make FNAF 2, which came out a year later. His main objective within FNAF 2 is making a chaos-filled game that was supposed to stress the player out. And he absolutely succeeded with this. This is one of the reasons why FNAF 2 is so big today. At this point, Scott decided that he would make a trilogy, the third game being the last one. So he decided to make a one-on-one game, you versus Springtrap, basically son versus father. And he was trying to make it the best out of the 3 to, leave off the franchise. And once FNAF 3 did come out, it was still big, but people weren't happy with it because it wasn't scary to them. They weren't happy about the jump scare, they weren't happy about the gameplay. It just wasn't scary to most people. So this led him to making FNAF 4. You can see how much time and effort was put into this game to make it the best for the last. And I honestly couldn't imagine the amount of pressure Scott Cawthon would have been under to make this game perfect. And in my opinion, I think this game is, really, really good. But the main problem with this game is that once, it was released, there were too many unanswered questions that left fans, wondering what else happens. So again, he had to make another game. But he made FNAF World. FNAF World is completely different to the FNAF games. It's kind of its own universe. He was sick of making these dark, murderous, killing games that basically is his job to make. So he wanted to, make something where people could enjoy it. And this game was completely hated. He got so much hate for it. I'm pretty sure he actually got even death threats for it. And we can see, how this affected him because there's an Easter egg where we can see Mangle hanging from the roof and the text, "Look what you made me do," is, appeared there. So we can see this is kind of him showing his, how depressed he was at this time. And then he finally made FNAF 5. FNAF 5 allowed Scott Cawthon to be more free with how he wanted to make his games, whether it's sci-fi, horror, whatever he wanted to do, he could do it with FNAF 5. And a lot of people enjoyed it for that because it was something new, you know what I mean? It had lore to it, more lore. There's not much else to say about this game, so moving on to the next one, FNAF 6. Now, Scott Cawthon at this time was upset with how he was making these games, so he decided to block himself off from the community and focus on the game. And even in an interview, he said that this, negatively affected him by doing this. There were no teaser trailers, there was no teasers, there was no trailers or nothing. He just randomly one day posted it and, disguised it as a troll game. Now, for context, Scott Cawthon in his previous games would make troll games. A troll game is where it would be the thumbnail of the game that's coming out and the title, but the contents would be trolls. It would be like a little 2D game, completely different from what was shown off. And he, disguised it as this, and the first few minutes of the game would be a troll game, but then it would move on to a real serious game, which would be FNAF 6. And people loved it. Everyone loved it so much because they were going into it thinking it wasn't a real game, but then was shown with an absolutely, real game. After FNAF 6, he made Ultimate Custom Night, which was supposed to end the series off there. Ultimate Custom Night is a game where you can choose the characters you want in the night, and it was, a really big success within the game because it's not repeatable. It's different characters, and it was nice to play over and over again. This was supposed to be the last game he made, but he decided not to because, he didn't want to leave the series off of that. And he had multiple choices. He could have worked on the movie and the books, or he could make just, more FNAF games, or he could just, leave it as UCN and then not make any more games. And he decided to do two options: make games, work on the movies, and make books. So he kind of made it harder for himself, if anything. When UCN was first released, Scott Cawthon made a Twitter post saying that whoever finishes it first, he would do a personal interview with them. Now, Dorko was the first person, and this was the first ever interview we ever got with Scott Cawthon, and it was an amazing interview talking about a lot of the games at that time. And, we got a lot of personal information about Scott Cawthon, and, it allowed us to have an image of him. Many people say he came back for the money, but I personally think he came back because he didn't want to leave the series off at a bad end. He decided for his next game, he would do something completely different. He would make a FNAF VR game, which was undone before. VR wasn't really popular at the time, so it was a very big risk, but it worked, it's one of the biggest FNAF games to this day. FNAF VR has FNAF 1, 2, 3, and other mini games compiled into it, but it's in a 3D sense where you can interact with the things around you, and it just worked super well. And it also has, compiled with some new lore, which is Glitch Trap and Vanessa is also shown off a little bit, I believe, in the DLC. That's really important because Glitch Trap and Vanessa are, the future of Five Nights at Freddy's. So it's really sick to see that this risk, if they didn't take it, we wouldn't have Glitch Trap or Vanessa. At this time, everyone was happy. Scott Cawthon's family was happy, his fans were happy, but most of all, he was happy. But people didn't like that he did a choice that was found out from a year ago. He decided that he would donate to the Trump campaign when he was first, being elected. And people didn't like that. But what people didn't know is that he donated before all the racist and bad stuff came out. But even yet, people still decided to send him death threats to him and his family. And he made the difficult decision to step back from Five Nights at Freddy's and let someone else, take over. He still makes games and, has a big impact on the games, but he's not the head of it anymore. This affected a lot of the community. A lot of people stopped supporting him and the franchise and left it completely. It also affected a lot of the content creators that were revolved around FNAF, specifically Dorko. He made a YouTube video when it first happened, having his thoughts on it, and he said he was physically depressed. And even with MatPat, he was in his video, I believe he almost cries in it. This was the darkest point in FNAF that I had ever reached. Once the new company took over, which was Steelwool Studios, which previously worked on FNAF VR, they announced Security Breach, which was supposed to be the FNAF's biggest game yet, which it technically is. They announced it in September of 2020, and they said it was going to release at the start of 2021 or 2020. Then, when that time rolled around, they delayed it to middle of 2021. Then, once that came around, they delayed it to December 15th, 2021, when it did finally release. Once it did release, there were a lot of bugs, lags, issues with the game because there was 50 gigabytes of unused content that was in the game files, which made it a ridiculous amount of gigabytes needed to download it. Once they fixed that, the game was, people still liked it, but it was, definitely impacted by it. This was a horrible start for the Steelwool company that was introduced into FNAF. Also opened the FNAF community up to a broader spectrum, and there were a lot of new fans that were coming in, which was technically really good for Five Nights at Freddy's, but it also brought a lot of negativity and toxic people into the community. There was a time when a lot of the FNAF characters were being sexualized, which in my opinion is horrible for a game where it's, meant for little kids. After this, they've announced a DLC for the game, which was going to be called Ruin, and in this DLC, they show off a character called the Mimic. Now, the Mimic is basically the new William Afton of the franchise, and this DLC was actually quite liked. Around this time, the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 movie had finally released after ages, but it was, received quite poorly, and not many people liked it, but me and a lot of other people still liked it because it's a FNAF movie and it was so sick. And this was the first time that we got to see, Scott in a very, very long time. And he's basically an old man now, no offense. But once the movie was released, Matthew Lillard, one of the main characters in the movie, said it's a 3-picture deal, so they were going to make 3 movies. Anyway, moving back to Steelwool Studios, they announced that they were going to make a Five Nights at Freddy's VR 2, which when it did come out, it was a hit. It was such a good game. There was not much things that were bad with it. It was such a good redemption from Steelwool Studios. The next game to be announced is Secrets of the Mimic. This is a game revolving around the Mimic, which was shown off in the Ruin DLC. This did come out a few months after, and the community were a 50-50 on it. Some people liked it, but a majority of them didn't really like it, because you see with this game, it seems like Steelwool, now I don't know if this was intentional or not, or if it was just like the law, it seems like Steelwool was trying to kind of reset the law that Scott Cawthon had set in place, because the law is that Edwin Murray, he got the Fazbear franchise stolen from him. So all the stuff that William Afton and Henry had gone through was basically for nothing, and they just stole it all. And that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, put notifications on. This, was basically the entire story of Scott Cawthon. It was such a fun making this video. No matter from the stance that you see Scott Cawthon or the opinion you see on him, you can't deny that the FNAF series is just amazing. I personally, no matter what Scott has done, I still support him, and he's such a good man, and he's gone through so much stuff to make these games for us. Even the pressure he's been under, he's gone through a lot, and I appreciate what he's done for this series. Because in my opinion, this franchise has changed my life, and I know it's changed many, many other lives, whether it's from the fame, whether it's, bringing communities together, or if it's just something you're really, really interested in. So thank you guys for watching. See ya.